Ashtar Commander does not use the phrase lightly. Point of no return. In the many transmissions that have been attributed to this presence across decades of spiritual inquiry and cosmic channeling, there are certain phrases that appear rarely and carry particular weight when they do appear. This is one of them. And in the transmissions of early 2026, it is appearing with a frequency and an emphasis that those who study these teachings carefully have noticed as significant. What does Ashtar mean by the point of no return? And why is he saying humanity has reached it now? The answer requires setting aside the fear that the phrase might initially evoke, the association with disaster, with the moment after which catastrophe becomes inevitable, and replacing it with a very different understanding. One that, once received, changes the phrase from something threatening into something that is, in the truest sense of the word, extraordinary news. The point of no return, in Ashtar's teaching, is not the point after which destruction becomes inevitable. It is the point after which awakening becomes inevitable. It is the threshold beyond which a civilization has raised its collective frequency sufficiently that the old patterns, the patterns of fear and separation and forgetting that have organized human consciousness for so long, no longer have the energetic momentum required to sustain themselves indefinitely. The point at which the direction of travel has been established irreversibly, not because any external force has imposed that direction, but because enough individual consciousness units, enough human beings making enough genuine inner choices in the direction of awareness and truth and love, have contributed to the collective field a momentum that exceeds the momentum of the old patterns trying to hold their ground. This is the point Ashtar says humanity has crossed in 2026. The awakening of this civilization, he says, is no longer contingent. It is no longer something that might happen if enough people make enough good choices in time. That threshold has been passed. The choices have been made. The momentum has been established. What comes next is not guaranteed to be without difficulty. There is still, and will continue to be for some time, significant turbulence as old systems lose their hold and new ones have not yet fully formed. But the direction is no longer in question. Humanity is waking up, and that, Ashtar says with something that can only be described as relief, is now irreversible. This changes everything about how to understand the current period. It changes what the turbulence means, what the difficulty of this time is for, what is actually being accomplished by the inner work that so many souls have been doing, often in isolation, often without external validation, often without being able to see clearly how their individual efforts connected to anything larger. They connected. They matter. They moved the needle. And collectively, they have moved it far enough. The point of no return has been crossed. And Ashtar wants to be clear about what this means for those who have been carrying the weight of uncertainty about whether the work was worth it, whether the effort was sufficient, whether the changes they could feel happening inside themselves were real and mattered in any larger sense. They were real. They mattered. They were the mechanism through which the threshold was crossed. And now, he says, the quality of the work changes. Not because there is no more work to do. There is. The building of a new world within the dissolving framework of an old one is not finished because the direction has been established. If anything, the most demanding phases of that work are the ones being entered now. The phase in which the new must actually be built rather than just imagined. The phase in which the frequency that has been rising must be grounded in actual structures of human relationship and community and collective organization. But the quality of the work changes because it is no longer about trying to tip a balance that was still uncertain. It is about building on ground that has been secured, extending what has already been won into the specific domains of life, personal, relational, social, creative, where the new frequency is waiting to find its expression. Ashtar closes this part of the transmission with something direct. He says, You have earned the right to work from hope rather than fear, from confidence rather than anxiety, from the grounded knowledge that what you are doing is contributing to something real and something that will succeed, rather than from the exhausting uncertainty of not knowing whether any of it matters. It matters. You cross the threshold. And what comes now, what has always been possible and is now becoming inevitable, is the most interesting work that has ever been available to human consciousness. The point of no return has been reached. And on the other side of it, the world that was always meant to be is beginning to take shape. But Ashtar wants to be specific about what this means in practical terms. Because the announcement that awakening has become inevitable can be received in two very different ways. And only one of those ways actually serves what the announcement is intended to communicate. The first way is passive. It says, if awakening is now inevitable, then I can relax. The outcome is secure. My individual effort is no longer critical to the result. I can ease my grip on the work because the work, ultimately, will complete itself. This interpretation is not what Ashtar intends, and he says so directly. The inevitability of the awakening does not reduce the importance of individual effort. It changes the context in which that effort is made. It changes the feeling from which the work is done. It changes the question from whether the work will ultimately succeed to how well, how thoroughly, how beautifully it will be done. There is a significant difference between working in anxious uncertainty, not knowing whether what you are doing has any chance of mattering, and working in grounded confidence, knowing that the direction is secured and that what you bring to the work determines its quality rather than its possibility. Ashtar says the shift from the first context to the second is one of the most significant things that the point of no return makes available. Not relaxation of effort, transformation of the felt quality of effort. From the exhausting uncertainty of not knowing whether any of it matters to the deeply sustaining engagement of someone who knows that what they are building is real, is needed, and will last. The second thing Ashtar wants to address is what the work actually looks like now, on the other side of the threshold. He says that the work of the previous phase, the phase of raising the collective frequency sufficiently to cross the point of no return, was primarily internal. It was the work of individual awakening, of each soul doing the personal inner development that was their specific contribution to the building of collective momentum, of millions of people, often in isolation from each other, often without external validation, choosing again and again the qualities of consciousness that the threshold required. The work of the new phase is different. It does not leave the internal work behind. The internal work continues and deepens, but it extends outward in a new way. The new phase is the work of building, of taking the inner development that has been achieved and expressing it in the actual structures of human life, in the quality of relationships, in the nature of communities, in the way that work is done and resources are shared and decisions are made and the vulnerable are treated and the natural world is related to. The consciousness that has been built internally must now find its expression in the external arrangements of human existence, not in grand political gestures or dramatic institutional reforms, but in the small, specific, daily choices about how to actually live, how to actually relate, how to actually build the immediate world of one's own life into a genuine expression of the frequency that has been developed. This is the most interesting work, as Ashtar says. And it is the work that this moment, on the other side of the point of no return, makes not just possible, but necessary. You are part of it. Your specific development, your specific gifts, your specific capacity to live the frequency you have built in the specific circumstances of your specific life, in a way that changes something for the people around you and contributes to the building of something real. The point of no return has been reached. The direction is secure. And the most meaningful work that human consciousness has ever been invited to do is the work that is available right now. Ashtar wants to close with something that speaks to those who have been carrying the weight of this work for a long time without adequate recognition of what they have been doing. Because the crossing of the threshold, the reaching of the point of no return, was not accomplished by any single event or any single individual or any single tradition. It was accomplished by the accumulated choices of millions of people, most of them are unknown to each other. Most of them working in the quiet of their own inner lives without any particular awareness that their individual effort was contributing to something of this magnitude. People who chose, day after day, in circumstances that provided little external support for the choice, to be a little more honest than was comfortable, to be a little more present than was easy, to care about what was real even when the world around them seemed entirely satisfied with what was not. People who sat in stillness when distraction was everywhere and easier, who maintained something open inside themselves when everything external argued for closing, who kept asking the questions that the culture did not reward and pursuing the truth that the systems around them had no interest in facilitating. These people, Ashtar says, are the ones who crossed the threshold. Their choices, multiplied across millions of lives and countless private moments, are what produced the momentum that has now become irreversible. If you are one of them, if you recognize yourself in this description, even imperfectly, even in the partial and inconsistent way that genuine recognition usually arrives, Ashtar wants to say something directly to you. Thank you. Not in the sentimental way that the phrase is often used, but in the precise, accurate, deeply meant way. The gratitude of a being who can see the full arc of what has been accomplished and who understands, in a way that those who did the work from inside the difficulty could not, what it actually cost and what it actually achieved. You crossed the threshold. The direction is secured. And what comes now, the building of the world on the other side of the point of no return, is the work that your entire long preparation has been building toward. Take what resonates, leave what does not, and trust yourself completely to know the difference. This content is offered for spiritual reflection, symbolic interpretation, and personal insight only. It is not presented as scientific fact, medical advice, or a prediction of real-world events. The narration in this video is generated using artificial intelligence voice technology. Please use your own discernment and personal judgment when engaging with this material.